us, and we'll come in and talk with you guys about it. And then lastly, what financial wellness offers is one-on-one appointments. So these ones are very much so to be very specific and cater towards students' very specific situations. Unlike comparatively to your workshops, they're very generalistic for workshops, but comparatively to one-on-ones, we get to better cater towards students saying, hey, you know, this is what you'll do for this situation, instead of generalistically, you know, what we'll tell other students. Okay, I think some students are just trickling in right now, so we'll start the presentation right now. And don't worry, we'll send you your advisors and all of the information, the links, the presentation. So if you guys miss any point of it, you guys can feel free to take a look at it as well. We'll send them the presentation link. But yeah, Yasleen would like to start us off.
Yeah, I will go ahead and share my screen. And if you hear babies or kids running around, just don't mind that. They're outside. Okay. Okay. All right. Can you all see my screen? Thumbs up. Awesome. Okay. So today we are going to talk about how to create a budget. So before I get started, I like to just get a general idea. How many of you have a budget currently or have tried in the past? If you could type that into the chat box. Where are you at with your budget? Yes. So a few of you said yes. Okay, awesome. I'm glad to hear that for those that responded, you have a budget. Someone said budget is non-existent. That's totally okay. It's happened to me in the past as well, where I just did not keep a budget. But thank you for those that participated. I really appreciate this. So with this presentation, we will go over budgeting 101. So we're going to talk about, you know, your income versus your expenses, the fixed expenses versus the variable expenses, and tracking all of the spending. We'll also touch on some of the campus and community resources that might be helpful when creating a budget, and a little bit of like how credit can affect your budget and whatnot. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. So like I said, when you start a budget, you have to think about all of these three. So your income versus your expenses, what expenses are fixed and what are variable. So I mean, those that tend to change from month to month, and making sure that you're keeping track of all of your spending. So when we talk about income, it's really important to think about all of the money that comes into your pocket, you know. So financial aid, you know, if you receive a refund, calculate that into your budget. Typically, a rule of thumb is, say, for example, if you receive your refund of $500, it's really important to divide that by 3, so that way you're consistent monthly of how much it's streaming within. So that way you don't use all of your refund money all at once you receive it. If you work, make sure to include that into your budget. If you have family support or a monthly allowance, also include that. Any scholarships that are streaming through, also include that into your income category. If you have savings as well, I would include that. And another thing too, if some of you or you know someone that qualified for unemployment and are receiving that, I would also go ahead and include that into the income category. That was in my situation. At one point, I had to apply for unemployment, and I used that money and included that into the income in my budget. And if you have any questions, feel free to just write that down into the chat box, and Charles will be moderating that as well. And we'll also leave time for Q&A at the end. So for your expenses, some of you may not be living in the residence hall. You might be living at UCLA campus apartments or just off campus in general, or you may be living with family and friends. This chart just basically gives you a little breakdown of the estimate of how much these fees cost. So it's really good in mind when thinking about, how much rent will be, how much will groceries be. Right here, if you can see health insurance, you do have the option of waiving UC ship. So if you do, then you'll get an extra refund once the money is dispersed. And then your monthly expenses, because for an academic year, we've included just 9 months. This quarter tends to start pretty much at the last week of September, but we just included the beginning of October to June. And so as you can see, this breakdown, it varies according to where you're living at. Some of you may be living in housing, some may not. I know there's that limit because of COVID, but again, this just gives you a rough estimate of how food and rent may look like versus someone who lives off campus or a UCLA apartment affiliated versus someone who lives in family and friends. Okay, sorry, I was just checking the group chat. If at some point do you find yourself that, the package that financial aid gave you, you've exhausted all of that, but you still need more funding for, say, airfare, for a laptop, any medical or dental, childcare, special projects or equipment, you can actually fill out a budget add-on form. We were actually talking earlier before this presentation started. So the financial aid office is backed up a lot. And so the best way to communicate with them is through their virtual advising center. So what you would do if you're in the situation where you need to fill out this budget add-on, you would go to their website and fill out, it's going to look like this. This is how this form will look like for summer. For the year, it's pretty much the same outline. But you would go to their website, you would fill out, and you would have to, I believe, attach supporting documentation for the expenses that you need, and typically they will increase your financial aid package. And so a rule of thumb of when you're calculating your budget, if you're paying rent in LA, we recommend students to use the 70-20-10 guideline. So what this means is that all of your income, 70% should be going towards any present expenses. So your rent, your groceries, etc. 20% should be going towards any debt that you're paying off. So any credit cards, maybe if you're paying for student loans or just any type of loan in general. And then the 10% goes to your future self, meaning, if you're putting money into savings account, or maybe if you have an investing account, that's where that 10% of your income will go towards too. If you're not paying rent, then that rule of thumb would be the 33%. Again, same thing, 33% goes to your present self, 33% goes to your past self, any debt, and 33% goes to your future self, savings, investing accounts. And so these are some goals to have in mind. We really recommend to, at least if you haven't started an emergency fund, to start off by trying to save $1,000. And then the rule of thumb is, we encourage students to have at least 6 to 9 months saved up before they start investing. Because when you start investing, then I won't touch on it, but just a general idea is, when you start investing, once you put that money in, it's not as easy to get that money back because there's these guidelines. So yeah, this is just a rule of thumb when creating your own budget. And then if you're the type of person that doesn't like to write things down, that you're more better using like technology, these are some really great budgeting apps to use. I personally use Mint. What this app does is that I link all of my accounts, all of my checking, all of my student loans, credit cards, you name it, and it really does keep track of all of my expenses. There's also other good ones. I've heard Every Dollar is a good one, Personal Capital, Pluto, Good Budget. Um, and this is how Mint will look like. It's really good in breaking down, giving you charts on the categories that you've been spending on. You can create your own budget on here and just you can see the trends of where your money has been going. So do any of you, you can drop, include this in the chat box. Do any of you use any of these apps? Maxine said you use Mint too. Awesome. Yes, and the graphs are very satisfying. Carlos says that they use Mint as well. Okay, cool. So I'm glad that some of you are using these apps, but if you haven't, these are really good to check out. For the most part, they're free. I believe there are some that I mentioned that if you want like the premium version, you have to pay. But check them out and see if you like them. It's one way to start budgeting. And so this is just some tips and additional budgeting apps that we have on here. So there's also Left to Spend, there's Slice, there's Digit, Venmo. I don't use Venmo, but these are just ways to additional resources to use. And so now we can talk about variable expenses. So these really are things to think about. So thinking about what your needs are and what your wants. And this looks different person to person. So a great example is like some of you for coffee. Some of you may consider coffee a need, but for us it could be a want. And so it's really thinking about sitting down like what things are that you actually need to pay versus what are some things that maybe you can afford this month, but in the long run you can as well. So tuition is a fixed expense. You can change the total of that. For in-state, it varies differently for out-of-state. But the thing is, you can change who is paying or timing. For the most part, it's automatic. Once you accept your financial aid package, it does it for you, it pays all of your tuition and student fees. But there is a Bruin payment plan, and these are some of the dates that you would have to pay if you are on this plan. And then room and board is considered fixed. Like I said, your rent varies based on where you live. So if you live on the hill, that's a little bit higher, but it does include all of these things: your meal plan, your basic cable, internet access, hill programs, and according to this chart, if you get a meal plan, the classic single is the most affordable. Again, this might look differently considering that we're in a pandemic, but just something to keep in mind when determining if you'd like to live on the hill or not, or off campus. And then if you live in apartments, there's on-campus apartments and then there's off-campus apartments. For the on-campus, this is how much it costs. This chart gives you an idea of what a studio may look like, and whatnot. And according to this, the basic cable internet are included, including gas, water, and electric. You would have to cook on your own, but it's a feature that students may like compared to living in the dorms. And then it varies of how you pay. You may have to pay monthly, the first of every month. You may have to pay quarterly, so October, January, and April 1st, or you may have to pay all at once by the date and offer. So it just depends where you're looking at. And then if you prefer living off campus, then We'll offer a few things of where of how housing looks like in the different areas. But if you're currently looking for an apartment, say, I know everything's remote right now, but if you'd like to live in an apartment maybe for winter or in the future, it's really good to look at listings on, the community housing office, Facebook groups, any company houses, and really thinking about like what is your max in terms of rent, like knowing when rent is due and if utilities are included. Um, so this kind of just gives you an estimate of prices for a 1 bedroom. And the most expensive tends to be in the Santa Monica, Venice, Beverly Hills, Westwood, Pacific Palisades area. And then if you go a little bit further, they tend to be less expensive. When I was a grad student, I lived in UCLA University Village, and so that was more closer to the Culver area, Culver City. So it was a little bit more affordable compared to some of my cohort mates who lived more in Westwood. And then again, this kind of just gives you an idea of how rent for a 1 bedroom apartment looks like depending on where you decide to live. So if you're closer, it tends to be more expensive, but the farther you move out from UCLA, it tends to decrease. And then ways to increase income. These are just some examples, but it's really good to look at Handshake. Sometimes they may offer internships or even like tutoring for students that you may want to pick up. And if there's also other avenues, I know some students that have their own photography, side hustle, baking. I've seen that. So really thinking if you're in that place where you'd like to increase your income, thinking of like what are some easy ways and like thinking of your skills to increase that. And then food. So food typically is considered a variable. Again, varies from person to person. Because we're in a pandemic, we typically, and if you qualify, we highly recommend students to check out CalFresh. We do have a website and students that are more knowledgeable than we are, but it doesn't hurt to check out because if you qualify, that can really decrease the cost in how much you're paying for groceries. And so this latte effect, it's just an example, but for those of you that like coffee, say that, and I'm not putting you out there, I'm just giving this an example, but if you're the type of person that likes to buy a cup of coffee like every day, one thing to keep in mind is say, for example, like a cup of coffee might cost you $4.85. In that moment, it may not sound like a lot, but if you're buying every day for 1 week, that adds up to almost $34. And if you continue that for the whole year, you're basically, spending about 1,800 a year. So when you think of the bigger picture, all of these little costs add up. And so it's really important to be like mindful of how you're spending your money and intentional of what you're putting these categories. And again, thinking of what your needs are and what your wants are. And so this is just some food resources that we have on campus. CPO Food Closet, they're online. I know in the past, and I think currently they're continuing where they're offering gift cards. So definitely take advantage of that. For me, I use their virtual food closet and it helped a lot when I was doing my grad program. There is also 580 Cafe. They also offer free food. If you qualify, check out the UCLA meal vouchers. Like I said, CalFresh is a good resource to look at. There's also a Facebook page called Free Food at UCLA Facebook page, and they basically pretty much post like free food on campus. This might not apply right now, but in the future, something to think about as well. And I'm going to transition this to Charles to continue on the presentation.
All right, hi everyone. So let's see a couple comments. Yeah, the as like Yasmin was talking about, yeah, the latte effect. Some people may not realize it, but yeah, you might even spend up to $3,000. That's like a couple travel tickets to somewhere across Europe or so. It's pretty easy to lose track of that spending. So that's why we recommend, you do a monthly budgeting. And if you guys schedule a one-on-one appointment with us, we can we have our own Excel budgeting sheet and we can walk you through it all. It has all the formulas already for you, so you just type in the numbers. We'll also send you the link to your guys' advisors, and they'll send it to you guys. This budgeting Excel sheet, you just put in the numbers for the categories it's labeled as, and they'll calculate, how much money you have or how much money you're uh, overspending on. Uh, yeah, 580, yeah, would have meals you can eat straight out of the fridge. It's great. The 580 cafe is great. I know so many of my friends and students say that the 580 cafe saves them a lot of money. It really just helps them. You of course do sometimes you would have to like work there for a bit, um, but it's really much worth it. Anyways, so to get us started, so books and supplies, this is a variable expense. And the reason why we say it's variable expense is because it's not like necessarily a fixed. Yes, your professors may say, oh, you have to go get a textbook or a book for a certain class, but you don't have to buy it. You can always just rent it. For example, these different websites, Amazon, you could rent it. Chegg, you could Chegg.com, you could rent it for a cheaper price. Buying it even from students. That's why we have the UCLA Free and for Sale page. You can find different types of textbooks from former students, and you get it for a much cheaper price. Older PDF versions as well, you can find it at bookfinder.com. I'll also drop a link to another website that we don't necessarily endorse, but you can get free PDF versions of textbooks. Just type in the textbook if you want, but I'll drop in the link for you guys. Next. Yeah, so right here you can see that, let's say that you're taking a math class at UCLA, and it's probably like you need to take this one math class, but you're not a math major, you're just taking it for that one requirement. For this math book, it's $100. Comparatively to renting it, it's about $17 just to rent it. And it's much more efficient to rent it because the reason why it's much more efficient to rent it because after you're done with that class for one quarter, what's about like 10 weeks or so, you're not going to look at that book again. You just used it for one class. You're not going to be able to resell it back for $100, so you will end up losing more money. So that's what we recommend. Unless you want to like refer back to that book. For example, you might be a CS major, a computer science major, and you want to relook at the basics of coding. You would buy a coding book, or you're a psych major and you want to know the certain basic foundation psychological effects, so you buy this book. And yes, by all means, buy the book if it relates more to your major and you're going to keep referring to it in the future. Otherwise, if it's just for a prereq, we recommend just renting the books. Next. So oftentimes, of course, this is more due to the pandemic, but if you are still off campus / on campus, near campus, there are some free printing services that are available still. For example, the Hill, they no longer have free printing on the Hill. They now have kiosks that you guys can use. It's all 10 cents per paper. At the SAC Center, the Student Activity Center, very useful place. I know that their computer labs, they have free printing for you. I'm not sure if that's still open. You can feel free to be able to check it out and check out their new updated hours. The Graduate Student Resource Center also helps offer students with free printing. And definitely check out your departmental labs, because some departments, they'll keep their computer labs open and they'll offer free printing. I know that in the social sciences, if you go around uh, PubAF, they'll have free printing for you in their labs over there. Next. I yeah, oh yeah, thank you. To be more specific, as I was talking about the free printing, the CPO Computer Lab, the Graduate Student Resource Center, Franz Hall at the WIPA kiosk, and Public Affairs. If you're a social sciences major, their kiosks are free for you. Next. So now we're going to talk about transportation and I think my theme. Sorry, I think I froze for a sec. So we're going to talk about transportation. So let's say that you're going to and fro from campus and you're living off campus. The monthly cost of a car is actually surprisingly quite a bit. You have to pay for about, say, $81 if you're living off campus to $101 if you're living on campus for the parking spot alone. Then you have to pay your car notes, which is on average about $300. Insurance is about $164. Gas at LA, give or take about $80. And this all per month. So in total, you'll be spending $640 per month on your car to have it at UCLA. So just to keep in mind, your expenses may be cheaper than that or be more expensive. That's something that if you guys do have a car, just keep in mind that you need to have that in your budget so you don't overspend on it. Of course, there's different types of programs. You could get like the 3-person carpool permit, much cheaper, $132 per quarter. Of course, you carpool with more people, save money on gas. That's why these numbers vary. Next. And of course, you don't always just have to use a car to travel around LA. There's different types, UCLA, we have a bike shop open that will repair your bikes for you. Walking is always a, pretty standard one. You can walk to and fro from like Rouse to UCLA campus. It's not that far off. Next. And definitely there's the Bruin bus. The Bruin bus, if you have your Bruin card, it's free. The Metro, it's $1.75 per ride, but for a whole quarter it's $50. You save so much money compared to $640 a month on a car. Comparatively, you only spend $50 a quarter. And then you have your Blue bus, Culver City bus. It's about 70 cents a ride. Of course, you'll need to use your Bruin card to swipe it in to get the discount. And then there's something interesting. This is the CPO evening van service. It's free within a 10-mile radius from Mondays through Thursdays. Of course, you have to sign up through the study hall in SAC basement, and they'll take you to anywhere within a 10-mile radius from to and fro from your campus to your house. Because we understand, sometimes it can be a bit dangerous to walk around at night, especially for females. Walking around LA at night can be somewhat dangerous, and that's why they created a CPO van service for them. Next. You also have your rideshare apps that are very standard. You have your Uber, Lyft. Zipcar is, you can imagine, Enterprise, the car rental area. If you are under the age of 25 years old, they'll charge a low underage kind of fee for their services and just to rent their car. But Zipcar is different because it lets you rent a car no matter what your age, and they won't charge you any high exorbitant fee. I think it's about less than $15 a month. No, $15 a year for their whole annual membership. Their cars are pretty cheap and reasonable per an hour, how much you have to rent for it. And they have a fixed price if it's over a certain amount of hours. I think it's capped at $60 or $70 for a whole day car. So that's relatively cheap. And of course, there's still some Uber scooters to go around. So it's important right now that during your college career that you guys should start building your credit now. because credit is really a foundation for life and a lot of things. For example, let's say that some of you want to buy a mortgage, you want to buy a house, you need to pay for a mortgage loan. To apply for that mortgage loan, you need to have a really good credit score. Some of you may want to buy a car, in the future. You'll need something called an auto loan. And to get that loan, you'll need a really good credit score. So we do recommend that you guys look into a credit card. You can feel free to make a one-on-one appointment with us as well, and we'll talk to you about how to navigate credit, what's the best tips and tricks you guys can get, what's the best card that will fit your situation, financial situation, and all this stuff and more. So you can feel free to make a one-on-one appointment. I'll send a link to you guys in the chat at the end of the presentation. Next. This is just a little bit of like a credit little activity, but I'm just going to skip over it just so I can have time for our Q&A to open up for students. Health insurance. This one's really important. So I'm pretty sure some of you, usually every year, they'll give a UC ship to everyone as a grant, but just due to the pandemic, money is a bit tighter, so not everyone's getting it. But approximately every year, health insurance, your UC ship, if you want to purchase it, it's about $2,500. And you could waive it at the beginning of the year using your type of insurance if you would like. But next. There are some benefits to having UC ship. For example, if you like to utilize a lot of UCLA's, their medical services, or even like their CAPS counseling, it's actually a lot cheaper if you have UC ship. Comparatively, let's say like you go to CAPS constantly. If you want to get a psychiatric intake, there's no fee if you have at all. There's no fee at all if you need to go to CAPS every now and then. But if you don't have UC ship, you have to pay a $15 fee per session. So it's quite steep if you do it constantly, but there are benefits to having UC ship if you would like to. Next. Cell phones. This one's important. A lot of people, when we budget people, they may not realize how much their cell phone bill adds up to them. And the reason for this is that some people don't have family plans. They actually hop off of their family plans. It's actually, you're saving a lot more money just by going through a family plan. Comparatively, you might have to spend $75 a month for maybe like unlimited gigabytes of data. But then comparatively, if you have a family plan, you may have the same unlimited data plan, but it's just going to be paying $50 instead, split across multiple people. So you can end up saving more money having a family plan. And definitely use Wi-Fi. The reason why I say this, it's very easy for people to just use data. But when you use Wi-Fi, the reason why is you don't want to accidentally go over your data plan. I know it's really easy to say watch those TikTok videos or YouTube videos, Instagram, Facebook, you watching all those videos and it's like, man, what happened? And you get a text message that says, hey, you used over 90% of your data. It's like, what the hell happened? Well, you watched the video. That's what happened. So it's really easy and that money actually piles up sometimes. We have students that on a monthly basis, they keep going over their data plan and they don't have an unlimited data plan and it costs them quite a bit of money. So make sure you stay within that data plan. Next. Yes, it is the worst text to get, to get that you're over your data. So of course, we are the Financial Wellness Program, and we want to make sure that you are financially well and you're spending your money and self-care, appropriately. And this is a variable cost. So next. Comparatively, of course, if you would go out to say watch a movie, or I know some movie theaters, they're opening up a little bit, or if you're to go out to places, maybe shopping somewhere, some places they're open, or even going out to eat, still under the tents, you'll still eat under the tents. it's still actually pretty expensive sometimes. You might be spending up to $20 to $40 or more just by going out to eat without you realizing it. Comparatively, you could stay in and just have some snacks. You can watch Resflix. Resflix is free to all students as long as you have UCLA Wi-Fi. And some of you are living back home, so just note that you can use the UCLA VPN. Just type in, literally Google UCLA VPN. You can download their application, and that VPN will attach you straight to the UCLA servers, and you can be able to utilize Resflix to watch all the movies that they offer on there. Next, and it's all free. Yes, clothes is a variable expense because you you don't always need to spend like hundreds of dollars for like a Gucci bag or that Louis Vuitton or Coach bags, suits, whatever it may be. There's different types. You can find it for cheaper prices. Always try to find the ones that are for sale and that are worth your money per wear. So what I mean by that is next. So what I mean per wear is something called cost per wear. So let's take, for example, this jacket. This jacket is about $120 comparatively to that cute outfit. Maybe it's $30. It's like, wow, that's cheaper. The $30 outfit is cheaper. Well, now let's take it per year. If you wear the jacket for 6 years and you wear it 4 times a week for 20 weeks, that's 25%. That's 25 cents a wear. Comparatively, the $30 outfit, it's for 1 year, then you're going to sell it afterwards and you only wear like once a week for 4 weeks, you're spending $7.25 per wear. You can see that it's much more cost efficient to use a jacket because it's more efficient to use. You're going to use it more often comparatively to that outfit. How often are you going to go out with that outfit? So it's important to memorize the cost per wear. Just because something's very expensive doesn't mean that it's not useful in some way. Next. So here's our top 10 thrift stores we have around UCLA. As of right now, I'm pretty sure all of these are closed. You can feel free to always Google them to see if they might still be open in some way. But as far as my knowledge knows, these are all closed, but just due to the pandemic. But after the pandemic, you guys can feel free to check out these stores and see how much money you can save. You can actually save a lot of money just by shopping at thrift stores because, they're always, basically everything's almost on sale always. Next. Oh, Crossroads is open. Yes. Yeah, I also like Crossroads. It's a great place too. I take my friends there every now and then. So affordable dates, you and your significant other, you don't always have to spend like $50 per every weekend just to go on a nice fancy day. UCLA, their planetarium show every Wednesday, 8 p.m. If you're around campus, they have it open for you guys. You guys can stay in and eat and just have a nice dinner together, a little bit bonding, and even didgeries, give maybe a little didgeries. All that's going to be about what, $15 for a nice date. Next. So we also constructed for students the top 20 affordable date ideas for college students. So if you're trying to date on a budget, feel free to go check these links out. Next. So savings, this is really important. Yeslin kind of covered it. In your savings, you should have at least $1,000 in your account for emergencies, just because you don't know what's going to happen one day in case, say the pandemic. Oh no, I have to pay more money or I lost my job. What am I going to do? The $1,000 in your savings is to help pay yourself first in case some emergency was to happen for a rainy day. Save up for a rainy day. So it's important to have a little bit money in your savings. You don't need to have $1,000 immediately, but every now and then, if you're able to afford a little bit of your income and put it into your savings account, it is recommended to do so. Maybe add like maybe $2, maybe, or how much else you are able to afford every time you get your paycheck to put it into your savings accounts. Next. So this is another one of our budgeting activities, but I'm gonna go ahead and brush over this just so we can have more time to hear what students, questions, comments, and concerns they would like. All right, yeah, that's the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening to us, and if you guys would like, we're gonna now open up for Q&A, and I'll also be sending out a couple links in the chat. So feel free to either unmute yourself or you can type it in the chat and ask us any questions you guys would like.
Yeah, it seemed like some students were a little bit worried about, getting a credit card. This isn't really much of a question, but what would be some tips like that you would let them know to like ease their mind?
For credit card, we actually have a presentation specifically for that one. And we also talk about it very deeply in our one-on-one appointments. So I'm gonna try to keep this general for a lot of the audiences or people here. But we definitely do recommend you guys schedule a one-on-one appointment with us. But as for credit, there are actually 3 different types of credit, and it all depends on people's situation. There's the student credit card, which is always offers student credit for your spendings on, like, say, buying food, groceries, paying rent, etc. So that one's always helpful because you'll get cash back that will help you ease up a little bit of the debt that you have to pay back. Then you have store credits. Those ones we recommend that if you're a person who likes to shop at that place, say Target, and you're going to use the Target card a lot, you can feel free to use that and gain some rewards points or cash back as long as the benefits outweigh the cost, because sometimes the interest rates could be exorbitantly high. It's not going to be worth it saying get 5% cash back, but the interest rate is like 25%. That wouldn't be worth it at all. So make sure the costs are below the benefits. And finally, we do recommend that students who don't have any credit right now, there is something called, and this is offered by credit unions, and you can feel free to contact Westcom Credit Union. They're a UCLA sponsored credit union bank. And we trust them a lot because they're a credit union, and as a credit union, they don't try to like get your money. They're not like commercial banks that would try to get your money. They actually do care about their customers. I know that you can get a free financial consultation with Westcom if you're not a member with them. After that, you would need to be a member with them. But you can open something called a secured credit card. So what a secured credit card is that we recommend for students who don't have either a very good credit score or they don't have any credit score at all, is because it's basically, think of it as like a debit card. So you would put money that you have into this credit card. Let's say that I have $1,000, I put it into a secured credit card. That $1,000 is my credit limit. Any money that I spend is just my own money, but I'll still be developing a credit scores. My credit score will increase as long as I make the timely payments and don't overspend, and all those, pretty much those simple like rules and all that to increase your credit score, they would apply to that secured credit card. So it's very good because you're not borrowing from the bank. You're actually using your own money. Hopefully that answered people's questions.
Yeah, and another question that we collected through the pre-survey was You sort of already touched base on this, but I'm wondering, do you have any other strategies outside of like this, I think it was the 70-20-10 or the 33-33-33 strategy for handling student debt?
Yes, we do recommend that when it comes to these kind of rules, that's very important. Are those rules that we are discussing about the saving up to $1,000, 30% of your income, you should save it at least. And then when it comes to investing, there will be a rule saying that you should only invest once you have about 3 to 9 months of livable expenses saved up. Another one that we do encourage students to have especially when it comes to budgeting, is that you guys should update your budgeting sheet about every 2 weeks to a month, no more than a month minimum. That's especially how we set up our budgeting Excel sheet to match this kind of rule, because we want to make sure that students are cognizant, they're able to realize what they're spending on every 2 weeks to a month, because students, I think every 2 weeks they'll get paid for, I think, jobs at UCLA. I know that's for sure. We get paid every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks after I would get my paycheck, I would then reset my budgeting sheet and set it up for the next 2 weeks to how would I spend it for those next 2 weeks. So it's important to keep updated on your budgeting sheet every 2 weeks to a month. If you're unable to like always update these Excel sheets or budgeting sheets, that's why we also recommend, other apps such as Mint, Pluto, Every Dollar. Those ones, they'll connect with your bank accounts and they'll automatically keep it for you. Say, hey, I want to save about $300 a month. You'll put that maximum limit and they'll keep it. They'll tell you how much you're spending, if you're overspending or underspending for you. So automatically categorize it for you.
Awesome. And a quick, another question adding on to a little bit to what you just said is, for let's say that a student, they decide to make like a one-on-one appointment with you, would they be able to go over like the budgeting sheets, making an Excel sheet, all that stuff during that one-on-one appointment?
Yes, definitely. You will be able to, if you schedule a one-on-one appointment. I just dropped it into the chat and the link. I'll be able to send it to you guys via email as well, follow-up. But definitely, if you guys set up a one-on-one appointment with us, we'll be able to better cater to you guys' needs. Today was more of a very generalistic one. As we said, workshops are meant to be generalistic for the general populace of the students. But if you set up a one-on-one appointment, we're able to better target and cater towards your needs about how to set up a budgeting sheet, how much your exact costs, your expenses, what you can do to lower down those expenses or increase your income. So you guys are able to better financially be well. And we're able to drop more resources such as like ECRT or like the student loans contact information, so you guys can get short-term loans. A lot of this stuff that wasn't mentioned in it, it would be mentioned in the one-on-one appointments.
Okay.
We
Awesome.
also have Instagram. We do recommend that you guys follow the Instagram because we always drop a lot of great financial tips every now and then for you guys to see, along with promotion about our like upcoming workshops or upcoming events that may be useful to you guys as well.
I have one more question from the pre-survey that we collected. You already sort of touched base, like you said, there's ECRT. What would be some other financial resources available during these times?
I can pitch in. So I mentioned CalFresh. I'll drop the link as well where you can go, but it's a really good source to look at if you end up qualifying for it. There's also the CPO, take advantage of that. I think they do like different types of packages every quarter. They started doing the virtual once the pandemic happened, where they gave out free gift cards. And I know in the past, I think they did like the Thanksgiving box. I'm sure they'll do some form of it this year as well. I mentioned unemployment. Some of you may or may not qualify for it, but if you do think that you qualify, take advantage of that because that's income that goes into your pocket and it helps a lot. So those are some of the main resources that I can think of that are really useful and I recommend students check out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, so that was all the questions we had in the pre-survey. Let's see. Oh yeah. Yeah, those are all the questions we had in the pre-survey. And we already sort of answered the question that was in the chat. Yeah, we already answered the question that was in the chat. So those are all the questions. Are there any other questions that any of the participants have for Yasleen and Charles?
We also every now and then, especially during we're working right now, financial wellness program. We are working on something right now to do presentations and upcoming for you guys. I know that every now and then, financial wellness program, we host a couple of different workshops for students. That's another resource that we offer. I know I think winter quarter, I want to say in winter quarter, we offered a tax workshop. We brought in VITA students and we talked more about taxes and how to file for it and all that. We've done a presentation on car buying with Westcom. We've done a presentation about home buying with undocumented students. So every now and then we'll have presentations. So if you guys follow us on social media, we'll keep you guys updated and we'll tell you when's the upcoming workshops that we're able to offer so you guys can learn more about different financial topics.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And actually, this is just a question that I thought about right now. Do you know if you do workshops about investing? I know you said that you should have 6 to 9 months worth of savings for like emergency. What if somebody already has that and they're ready to take the next step towards investing? How could they connect with the Financial Wellness Center to figure out what is the best move I should take right now as a student to invest?
I'm actually so glad that you asked that question because I'm part of one of the co-investing group members there that facilitates this one. And right now, our little think tank that we're trying to do is we're trying to create different presentations and videos and podcasts even for you guys that'll talk about a lot about investing. So we're going to try to upload these in the YouTube channel throughout the academic year. So we're going to have like a little podcast talking about different types of investing, what they mean, a little bit education on that. But if you make also a one-on-one appointment, you can check mark like your financial topic you want to learn about is investing, and we'll be more than happy to schedule you with either me or one of our other 2 financial peer coaches, and they'll be able to talk to you more specifically about investing, because investing is actually a very big topic. It's a very wide array of different types. You have stock, bonds, retirement accounts, you have like 401ks, all that and more. So it's a very specific topic. So that's why we don't really necessarily do workshops for them. But we try to cater towards that if you're able to. We also have a presentation if you want to learn more about stocks. That's like our Investing 101 2.0. So we have a whole wide array of investing resources, websites, such as Betterment, Fidelity. NerdWallet is a great website if you want to get into investing and doing research into different type of brokerage firms or IRA accounts. You would simply just make a one-on-one appointment with us and we can give you guys all that resources and websites.
Thank you so much. So it is 12 o'clock now. I want to be mindful of everybody's time. So I really want to thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. I know that at least for me, and I'm sure that a lot of other people here, the participants, feel the same way, that we learned so much from it and we feel a little bit more prepared on how to budget, especially during these times. You gave really great resources, and I'm sure that we will be utilizing those like investing podcasts and all the other things that you brought up. So thank you so much for this presentation and your time. We really, really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Well, we want to be mindful of your time, so we'll let you guys take over.
Thank you for
Bye-bye.
having us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.